joining us today, and apologies for the slight delay. Welcome to the Youth Debate, a call to integrity, hosted by the Center Science and Innovation for Development in cooperation with Liburnetiek and supported by the Embassy of the Kingdom of Netherlands in Albania. We are very pleased to have you all here today. It is very nice to have a full online Zoom house this afternoon at the end of the week, and we are really looking forward to the debate that our young students have prepared for us today. This event is organized in the framework of the Week of Integrity, and in the chat box, you have some instructions about the event today. As you know, we are recording and we will be transmitting live on Facebook for others to join. I would really like for everybody to have the cameras on, so as we know whom we are talking to. And please keep your microphones muted while the others are speaking. If you have any question or comments, please use the chat box, and in there as well you have some instructions about the technicalities of the event. I guess we have already confirmed your approval for us sharing this on Facebook and recording the event, but in case you have any objections, please write on chat. As I mentioned before, we are ready to start. We are just waiting for the ambassador to join in, and
I'm here.
Okay, good. Welcome. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Okay, then. SCiDEV and Liburnetiek, just a few words, support young people in their education and professional development journey. We already have a debating program for high school and university students, supported by the Open Society Foundation in Albania. We consider the debate as an essential instrument to equip young people with critical thinking, analytical skills, ethical communication, and tolerance for different opinions. We believe that an ethical and quality debate based on evidence, on research, is an essential service not only for the students and for their own professional and academic career, but also more broadly for the entire society. It is precisely in this valuable experience that this debate, this event today was motivated in cooperation with the Dutch Embassy, and again, we are very grateful for the support. Today we will have two debates. We have 4 teams, 16 brilliant young boys and girls, students at university level, but also in high schools, who have been preparing with their mentors for 2 weeks now for their motions. I take this opportunity to thank and to congratulate all the students for their commitment and their engagement. And a special thanks goes to the mentors, Abidot Biba, Berina Fani, Berta Tucci, and Retan Sakuta for their work with the debate teams. Each debate will be evaluated by a jury composed of distinguished members. I am delighted to have here Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the Netherlands in Albania, Mr. Mario Mariani, Head of Cooperation at the EU Delegation in Albania, Mr. Andy Dobrushi, Executive Director of Open Society Foundation, the Deputy Ambassador of the Dutch Embassy in Albania, Mrs. Aspasiana Kongo, Deputy Minister of Education, Sports and Youth, and Ms. Stella Suloti, Advisor to the Ministry of Justice. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to your input later on. I would like now to give the floor to Her Excellency Madame the Ambassador of the Dutch Embassy, a promoter and supporter of the entire Week of Integrity and the debate program. Madam Ambassador, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and my apologies that you that I kept you waiting for such a long time. We had some traffic problems, but I'm here. And I'm very happy to be here. And I use this time that you gave your introduction to swipe. I'm like many of you, I'm sitting behind my mobile phone at the moment, to swipe through. And I see that there's so many of you here. And this really, really makes me very happy. I just want to touch upon two things. First of all, why we think this youth debate is so important, and secondly, why integrity. Well, first of all, why the youth debate? I think that every country deserves a young generation that wants to be engaged, that has a desire to explore and to think critically, and that's willing to do research and invest in presentation. And it's not only about the winning strategies, but it's also about how to respectfully bring across your arguments and how to have a balanced and well-informed debate. Because I think if we look at the world at the moment, there's a lot of fast news, fast opinions, and I think it's very good that all of you invest time and energy in, well, working on to how to have a balanced and informed debate with reasoning and with evidence. It helps the young generation, I think, also in practicing these skills and in using your creativity. And of course, it's nice that there's a bit of competition in the end. But I'm really looking forward to what you've been working on over the last weeks, and I heard very good things about that. The second thing I want to touch upon is why integrity. Well, we all know that without integrity, a society will not flourish, whether it's democratically, whether it's economically. But the question is, what is integrity? And we all know, of course, that we should also abide the law, and we should all stick to all the rules and regulations that are set in our institutions. But there always is such a big gray area of undefined shared values. And to find out whether we actually speak about the same values and whether we share the same values, it's extremely important to continue to discuss these topics. Also within our daily work at the embassy, for example, we very regularly have debates on whether something is integer, how we should act upon things that happen to us, whether it's in social media, whether it's within the embassy, whether it's in working relations, whether it's friends that ask you for a favor. There's so many areas that are gray, and that's why we think debating these things and discussing them really helps us to define outside the laws and rules and regulations what the shared ethical values are that we have, and to make sure that we can act upon them. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I want to thank SCiDEV and Libernetic on preparing all of you and this together with you, and I look forward to listening to the debate teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador, for the meaningful messages that you shared with us. I am happy now to give the floor to students and to start the debate. We will start with the first debate motion: digitalization and ICTs can reduce corruption. We have the affirmative team led by Marie Medjoka. She is a master's student at the History and Philology faculty at the University of Tirana, and her team is composed by Malvina Kucha, master's student at University of Tirana, Ilir Brasha, a student of economy at University of Tirana, and Mariana Kocheku, bachelor student in international relations at Marin Barleti University. On the opposition team, we have Iris Beçiri as the team leader. She is a student of political science at the University of Tirana, and her team is composed by Denis Meta, master student at the Faculty of Economy, European University of Tirana, Brisilda Ormani, master student at the Faculty of History and Philology, and Irini Pala, geography student at University of Tirana. The students who will kick off their debate, they know the flow and their turn to speak. We will start with the leaders who, as well at the end, will provide the concluding remarks. Please, all the other participants, keep your microphones off, and let's hear the debate that the students have prepared for us. And we start with the affirmative team. Marima, the floor is yours, and good luck to all of you.
Good afternoon to all. Firstly, I would like to start saying that all of us here surely admit that corruption is unknown for well-functioning of state law. To know why we fight it and which are the methods, we should firstly know the origin of the phenomenon. Corruption is as old as human history, and its origin is dated since 3000 BC of ancient Egypt, when they noted corruption on its usury. The classic definition for corruption is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. Corruption erodes trusts, weakens democracy, hampers economic development, and exacerbates inequality, poverty, and social division. Corruption can happen anywhere, anytime, and involves anyone, but how governments are trying to reduce it as much as possible? For our team, the answer is using new information and communication technologies to embrace transparency and accountability. Since that modern times require modern solutions and ICTs offer a step gain over other conventional communication and information management systems in several important respects. They allow greater accessibility, automatic record keeping, the systematic classification and recovery of data, and generally better knowledge management and the sharing of information. These characteristics have the power to transform the way public administration is conducted and relations between government and citizens. This is why OECD has recently launched a new program of work on e-government, which will look at how governments can best exploit 21st century ICTs to promote greater efficiency and deliver responsive, cost-effective services to citizens within the framework of good governance principles. This means that citizens can be more fully involved in all aspects of government, reinforcing the creation of a culture of trust and mutual interests. Indeed, ICTs are already transforming relations between governments and citizens, and some examples even here in Albania are platforms like e-Albania, Shqipëria që Duam, online payments or forfeits, and much more that my colleagues will mention in their word. All these examples, I think, that prove that digitalization is one of the best forms possible to reduce the negative effects that corruption produces. Thank you.
Good evening. As we all know, corruption is a widespread phenomenon that affects the entire society. It produces inequality, poverty, and weakens democracy. It affects negatively on the economy because it slows down economic development by promoting unfair competition. Yet technology isn't the best ally in identifying and preventing corruption. ICTs are not a magic bullet to fight corruption. It is true that governments have made efforts to use technology for the purpose of transparency and curbing corruption. However, e-government platforms are not always useful and practical. Some of the challenges of introducing technology in our life include the economic costs of infrastructure, lack of internet access, and age discrimination with older members of society being unable to use technology, and threats to personal data. In fact, cyberbullying, cybersecurity is a problem worldwide, a big problem worldwide. It's very concerning that half of the world's population has difficulties in using technology and internet. This means that even in the best case scenario, using digital tools to control corruption will create inequality by excluding those members of society that don't know how to make the most use of them. In Albania too, some of the platforms have not been as good as expected or promised. In 2019, the Albanian Institution of Statistics published a report that shows that 33 to 64% of the 45 to 75-year-olds interviewed said that they have never used ICTs. As such, ICTs are able to boost trust in the public sector and public services. That's because ICTs are not a standalone solution for transforming a system, particularly a corrupt one. We need to take into account the local culture and values, the level of digital skill in the population, as well as economic implications of developing IT-based solutions to public services sector problems.
The Swedish program for ICT in developing regions developed a list of the possible areas which ICTs can help combat corruption. A latest report of Groningen institution says that automation, which can reduce the opportunities for corruption, the repetitive operation. Another point very important is the transparency, which can help reduce the room for distraction. Detection and operations to identify anomalies, outliers, and performances. Preventive detection through monitoring of networks and individuals. Awareness raising to empower the public and to inform it about its right to resist arbitrary treatment. Reporting to create the complaint channels that can lead to concrete actions and help punish violations and to close loopholes. Deterrence, we mean by disseminating information about reported cases about corruption, promoting ethical attitudes through public engagement and online discussions as we are doing today. In a study of the impact of e-government, measures on the World Bank Control of the Corruption Index found that the implementation of e-government solution often resulted in a considerable reduction of the levels of corruption. Another report very important for the civil society, where I also part, is that the organization of online hackathons, which are events that can gather everybody to fight against corruption. This is a way where we can use the new technologies, and perhaps the most renowned corruption reporting website is the well-known Yanagra Center for Citizenships, and through this website, citizens can report on the nature, number, pattern, types, location, and the frequency and values or actual corrupt acts.
So, hello. Only 2 billion people in the world have access to the internet, and only 2.7 billion people have access to technological devices. These are the latest figures published by Technology for Transparency, and they are sufficient for us to realize that less than half of the world's population is trained in all things digital and can make use of public services online. Closer to home, North Macedonia, where internet penetration is 82%, has decided to make use of an online mobile app platform for reporting corruption, and in turn for the relevant authorities to launch an investigation into suspect violations. Practically, this should be interesting. Corruption reporting made easy, simple, just like having the police at the click of your fingertips. But how efficient is this virtual police officer? In the first 6 months of 2018, 290 reports were made on that platform, out of which only 16 of them were placed under investigation by the prosecution, just slightly more than 20% of cases. In Albania, we have a similar platform called Report, where one can report corruption cases. Data of the same year show that only 41% of the total 438 reported cases were prosecuted. These two cases show that eradicating corruption through digitalization did not prove to work, as it only addressed some symptoms, not causes of corruption. For any project to work, it has to take into account many factors, especially the prevailing working culture and values, as well as economic implication of developing IT-based solution to public services sector problems. ICT is not a magic solution if it isn't complemented by other processes within the administration.
I want to thank the other team for their points, but me and my team believe that the downfalls are not greater than its advantages. Because ICT, we have been emphasizing all this time that it is not the best solution, because it needs other instruments in order to facilitate the road to combating corruption. We believe that ICT in the form of websites or platforms can be used to facilitate the reporting of corruption, the access to official information, and to monitor the integrity of social services. Reporting has never been easier by just one click. I mean, it only takes a picture or a video of the nature, number, types, location, frequency, and values of actual corrupt acts that the citizen experience, and through complaint channels that can lead to concrete action and help punish violations. A process like this would as well affect any potential corrupt officials' attitude to corruption, being aware that they can be reported at any given moment. Our current government has already implemented such initiative via its Albania That We Want platform. And according to published data so far, the platform has reached 10,000 cases addressed by citizens, out of which 150 administration employees have been dismissed right after citizens reporting. And I want to emphasize also that no later than yesterday, GRECO, the Group of States Against Corruption, have filed a report for Albania where it requests from Albanian government to implement as soon as possible the platform for filing and publishing declarations of private interest from state officials. Therefore, a natural question arises. How do you assess this request? Thank you.
The other thing is right to bring up the fact that digitalization and ICTs are cost and time saving, effective. One can easily report corruption using this tool and create opportunities for citizen engagement. However, the data of ICTs usage distribution by age group in 2019, published by the Institute of Statistics in Albania, shows that 33% to 64% of the 45 to 74-year-olds interviewed said that they have never used ICT. How can a large part of the working population report corruption using digital tools when they have never even used it? Only 60% of those asked stated that they obtain information from e-government websites or apps like in Albania. This data shows that eradicating corruption through digitalization doesn't always work. For any project to work, it has to take into account many factors, especially the prevailing working culture and values, the education of the population, as well as economic implications of developing IT-based solutions to public services sector problems. ICT is not a magic solution. It is even complemented by other processes within the administration. Furthermore, we argue that there are differences in types of corruption. A study of 42 developing countries in Africa and Asia investigated the impacts of ICT investment on corruption at the national level during 2003 to 2007, found a U-curve relationship between ICT investment and corruption, which suggests that while more investment in ICT can decrease petty corruption, another investment has to be associated with increased grant corruption. This is because in many developing countries like Albania, it is very common for government officials to rely on budgets spent on public projects, such as infrastructure, as a way to increase political support. This said, all these arguments that digitalization can be helpful to reduce corruption. However, we would agree in fact that ICTs usually tackle only petty corruption instead of curbing even grand corruption, which is still problematic in developing countries. How do you account that ICTs can be helpful in reducing grand corruption? Thank you.
Hello, after hearing all the arguments and examples by the first two from the opposite team, what they mentioned, we as a group admit that there are some problematics and they exist, but we can admit that their disadvantages would stop us from healing this wound that damages democracy so much. I want to bring some new evidences about the correlation between ICT and corruption. For example, in one paper titled, "Does Investment in ICT Curb or Create More Corruption? A Cross-Country Analysis in 2012, another one, Department of Science and Technology Studies, Korea University in 2018, and another paper titled Anti-Corruption Effects of Information and Communication Technology and Social Capital in 2009. All of that prove that the correlation between ICT and corruption is negative, what means that the increases in ICT decreases corruption. And I want to bring an interesting fact by Suffolk University, USA in 2012. that shows that e-government, impact of e-governments is higher in developing countries than in developed countries. What means we can use, we as Albania, as a developing country, we can use the e-government to decrease the corruption. Thank you.
Many countries around the world have adopted digital solutions for combating corruption. However, digital systems are not perfect tools. We all know that digital media deteriorates, software changes, and hardware becomes obsolete. There are cases when digital tools simply crash. Additionally, there can be plenty of ways to hack into digital systems. And so, the issue is that digital systems are only as strong as their weakest link. If digital platforms are not managed professionally, their useless can be compromised. Professional management in this context implies two things: investment in infrastructure and investment in the skills of system administrators. Generally, more developing countries are better able to invest in the necessary infrastructure. Additionally, they also have an advantage compared to countries like Albania, because building skills takes time, and they have had a longer experience in training their staff in digital skills. Is Albania ready to embrace this transformation now, or will the efforts for creating digital solutions to corruption end up as an inefficient use of public funds? Thank you.
After hearing all the arguments that the opposition team mentioned, I would like to thank them for all the numerous examples that they mentioned, but we didn't say at any moment that ICTs are here to solve all the problems, but only to say that ICTs are the best choice possible for the moment, since I said that modern times acquire modern solutions. However, they cannot change the fact that digitalization in the end of the day is a tool that builds bridges between citizens and government based in a foundation of trust. The internet accessibility is and will be always a problem, but should we suffocate in what slows us or make new steps to improve the situation? Examples that my colleagues mentioned prove what I expressed since the beginning of this debate. I would like to briefly emphasize all the fields that we think that digitalization has helped so far and are so important. Before we see the gaps, we should keep in consideration that what digitalization have made very rapid steps in, like reporting bribery and petty corruption, reporting electoral fraud, or budget monitoring, monitoring of political life, reporting, monitoring of social services, and so much more. Also, the use of ICTs to fight corruption has increasingly served as an avenue to bring the tech community closer to activists and civil society through the phenomenon of hackathons. Sure, it has place for improvements, but doesn't this reality look a healthier environment that doesn't let corruption to grow as much as before? Is not convincing that that with just one click, as my colleague Malvina said, that are saved many minutes, hours of waiting in institutions that tire citizens, that may lead to corruption to finish quicker, like years before. To conclude our statement, we as a team strongly support the idea that ICT's impact will be improving and will continue to help more and more in decreasing the phenomenon that we are discussing today. We strongly support ICT mechanisms in order to inclusiveness that they offer for all citizens. None of the main issues which humanity is facing will be resolved without access to information, says Christophe Deloire. Which tool better than ICT can resolve this? Thank you.
Corruption actually manifests differently in different areas of our lives. However, when corruption offenses occur in the public sector, whose mission is to ensure just and equal treatment of all citizens, they become not only offenses to their own right, but also determine the rule of law and human rights in the most direct and fundamental way. So we argue that corruption is one of the biggest problems affecting democracies. Governments have tried different solutions to control corruption. While digital technologies are a potential solution, they have major shortcomings too, and this includes the high costs of initial investment, limited internet penetration or lack of access to devices, lack of skills of digital system administrations, as well as low digital literacy of citizens, the high risk of crashing system and cyber attacks, which will make people feel unsafe in giving up personal data. Our team thinks that there needs to be a careful consideration on whether digital tools will represent an efficient use of public funds in Albania. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both teams. Thank you, Marime and Iris, for taking the lead for your teams in this debate. I, for one, enjoyed it, and I really congratulate on your performance. But now I would like to give the floor to our jury members. They will provide some feedback and additional messages as well for you. We will start with Madam Ambassador. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And let me first say, wow, I'm so impressed. First of all, it's very difficult to do an online debate because you cannot see each other, and to be well prepared and look in the camera and all these kind of things. It's really not easy to do it in English, and to do it also about a subject that when you first read the statement, you really think, okay, but who can disagree with that? So let me first start by complimenting the opposing team to have found really very valid arguments that, do oppose this statement. I really thought that that was very creative, but also the affirmative team, I really thought you did a very thorough job in providing the evidence for this statement, because it's very easy to just think, okay, of course it does, but why does it? And you really went through a lot of research. So I think also both sides, you really made use of a lot of research and concrete data to, use in your arguments. And I thought that that was very well done. All of you were very thoroughly prepared. And I thought at the moment that you gave examples, and that's also the bridge to the maybe tips for the next time. When you gave examples, those are the ones that stick in your mind. The example of waiting endlessly in institutions to make sure that your claim on corruption is being filed. But also the examples of how many people, old people, have never used, or the percentage of people that have never used ICT. So those are really, and you can really imagine then, oh yeah, that's true actually. And you really relate to those arguments because they are very realistic arguments, and something, instead of just clean data, you know what you're talking about. So I would, for next time, I would say you make more use of very concrete examples, because that's what sticks in the mind of people who are listening. The other thing I would advise you, and I know it's extremely difficult, you were very thoroughly prepared, but sometimes you were reading your arguments. And as a listener, it's difficult to follow when someone is really reading. And I have that also in my work, that sometimes you really have to make sure that you talk into the camera, that you relate to the people, that you know who your audience is. And it's difficult when you're sitting behind the camera and you're not in a room. But that's something that I advise you to keep in mind, especially the way in which you position the camera. Is quite easy to pretend you're not reading, but you're talking to a camera, if you see what I mean. So that's something to keep in mind. And the other thing is that it would be good for next time to even relate more to the arguments made by the other party. You were very thoroughly prepared, but sometimes you stuck to your arguments, although they were not directly linked to what the other party said. So I think more interaction and really relate to what has just been said by the others would help the liveliness of the debate. But going back, all in all, I think you really did an excellent job of preparing yourself so thoroughly and really thinking about the points you wanted to make and how and why. So it's a big compliment and some tips for next time.
Thank you so much, Madam Ambassador. You are an excellent judge. We will invite you in our next rounds of debate as well. Thank you. Now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Mario Mariani, the Head of Cooperation from the European Delegation in Albania. We are very pleased to have him with us today. And just a small note, thank you to Liz as well for making this possible and for supporting us. Mr. Mariani, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks. Hello. Good afternoon to everyone. Yes, the ambassador was a really good judge, and unfortunately, she went before me. So some of my ideas are now going to sound less interesting. I had a great time. Thanks. It was really very good. And actually, I think I'm going to see if I can enroll in the next edition as a participant and not as a judge, because at times I was there thinking, oh, that's good, I want to answer that, or I would change that and say it in a different way. Anyway, it was really good, and I started, and I must confess, with a little bit of a bias, because for me, when I saw the title, I said, well, it's obvious, of course, ICT helps, and what are we going to debate, really? And also because we actually believe in it so much that some of the initiatives that you were mentioning were actually supporting, like e-government, e-services, one-stop shops, and so on. But then I was actually surprised to listen to some of the arguments of the opposing team and thinking, well, yeah, they have a point on this. Yes, this is really an important issue, and we didn't think about that. So this was a very interesting exercise also, you know, that we always have to be ready to broaden our mind and look at different angles of the same issue. In terms of feedback, I must say, I found very strong preparation and strong arguments that both the teams have put forward on substance. I was more surprised by the ones of the opposing team because I myself had built up the arguments of the affirmative team, but both in substance were very strong and very, very convincing. And I must say, you made a very pervasive and persuasive case for both options. I very much took note of the different sources and data that you have mixed, and a very good mix of global data and global sources and other things more closer to home, neighboring countries, issues in Albania. And this was, of course, very helpful in understanding and reinforcing your arguments. And the references to personal examples and personal experiences. I think this is very, very important. I was told by Bleriana that we're not supposed to score, but so I will resist a natural tendency that I have in this respect. But I must say that I particularly was impressed by some of the speakers who were more passionate about their arguments, and who, to go back to a point that the ambassador was making, gave the impression of reading less and being more led by their own ideas and their own passion. I noticed also that some of those who intervened were more relaxed and more in this direction in the subsequent interventions rather than in the first one. As tips for the future, I would say references and data are very important, but sometimes they remain more, they stay more if there are less. Rather, be careful not to overdo them and to over reference, because in that case people get a bit lost. I also think that examples and linking to personal experience are something that really remain in our minds very strongly, and they make an argument even more persuasive and stronger. And I also must say, and the ambassador did not mention this, but I think it's because culturally we come from different corners of Europe. I also found particularly convincing Denison or Irini, for example, who started moving their bodies and moving their hands and so on. And I think that putting this emphasis, particularly when we have to do these kind of things online, and you don't have much body language, can be particularly a way of emphasizing your points and making them even stronger. So again, globally, I must say I was very impressed and also by the linguistic skills. I would say that it helped me to broaden my horizon on this issue, on which I had already a preconceived idea. And I also think that in the context of the Week of Integrity, it is particularly helpful to have these kind of initiatives. And I think that we are making this Week of Integrity, edition after edition, more open and more varied in the kind of initiatives and activities that are taking place. And this will make it even stronger and reach out much more to the public and to the young people. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mariani. We might as well take you up on your word and organize the mixed debate with students and with members of the EU delegation from the embassies. These are some of the ideas that we have been discussing with Liz and with Aida for next year. So, of course, we will think more about that. Now it gives me great pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Ante Dobrushi. As I mentioned before, the Open Society Foundation in Albania has been supporting the debate program for a long time now and has a very strong legacy. Both SCiDEV and Liburnetic have benefited from their support. And just one note and apologies for not mentioning the full affiliation of Mr. Dobrushi. So he's the Regional Coordinator for Western Balkans Foundations and the Executive Director of Open Society Foundation in Albania. Thank you, Andy, if I may, for being with us here today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Brianna. I mean, without further ado, I mean, I was expecting also to, I apologize first because I'll have to leave a bit early at 3:30 due to another Zoom that we have to join, you know, like my friends were joking today, like we're turning into Zumboids, you know, like jumping from one call to another, like with pretty big intensity, you know, but as always, we've had, what can I say? I mean, like without trying to repeat myself also from previous years that when we opened similar initial, you know, events on debate, etc. I think it's without any exaggeration, one of the most interesting projects that we have supported and funded, and this is something which we have not advocated only with other donors and partners in Albania, but not purely because trying to draw their interest, but because we do genuinely believe that this is one of the most worthy projects that we have supported, and it's not only nice to support smart and beautiful young students that come and participate, you know, very willingly in this, and it's always a pleasure to listen, hear them, you know, like with very fresh, unconventional ideas, which is, I think, the most important thing. And for me personally, it's I mean, I've never been part of the journey on purpose because it's a very, I mean, you have to come to very painful decisions because usually it has been very rare that I didn't like both sides of the arguments, you know, like and how passionately like students usually and kids also in the gymnasium, high schools have advocated for their causes, and it's, for me it's impressive. But what I wanted to make a few general comments which relate basically also to the next debate, you know, which has to do with I mean, because we talk about integrity, but I mean, sometimes we forget what integrity is. I mean, it's like basically it's to do the right thing without the need for the others to see, you know, like it looks like, and it sounds a bit like a religious dogma, you know, but basically this is the essence of integrity, you know, like and what composes that value, you know. And I think when you talk about values, it's very important to bear in mind that unless you internalize these values and practice those, it's a futile effort to hold also these debates, also to make efforts to include those in the curricula, etc. Because the first and the most important environment where you practice this is your school, it's your education environment, you know, like if you cannot practice these values within the school system, you know, like where you study every day, and it's not about only basically coming and debating. Our hope is that, you know, this, what you discuss today become part of your daily life, of your behavior, you know, and it's not easy, huh? I mean, to have integrity, it takes courage as well. It takes a brave person to show integrity. And unfortunately, the samples that you have around you every day are not exactly the best examples that that you can draw inspiration from, you know. So and that's why it's very important that to understand that we're not only talking, we're not only debating, we're trying to sort of plant different seeds in the behavior and the attitude, you know, and that's why it's so important to internalize. Otherwise, you know, you're going to fall into the metaphor of, I don't know how much my colleagues in Ambassador and Mara know about the new leg and the old leg parlance in Albania, you know, which is a very paradoxical, but it also explains the reality, you know, that, you know, you learn something, you rehearse it very well, you do very well in the debate or in school, but then when you go in life, you become compliant with the norms of making compromises with the anti-values and with injustice. And I'm hoping that this is not going to be the case, that you're not going to do the compromise after these debates on integrity, you know, like whether it's on ICT or on education. So this is what I wanted to mention. I think both teams were excellent. I don't want to add to the points that very good points that both Madame Ambassador and Maria made, you know, because they are all excellent and valid points, you know, like which also shows like how interesting to see like how this the concept works in different cultures and environments, you know. Like I think here we have lots to do compared to, I mean, I'm not going to say Netherlands or Italy, but also compared to our neighbors, you know, especially when it comes to ICT and education and the integrity there. And I can bring you a myriad of examples that the situation is not as rosy as one team tried to make it. But on the other hand, we should also look for inspiration and positiveness, you know, like in the situation, because it definitely is something that it helps, you know. The thing is how to, of course, one of the students like correctly said, like we have to see like how this will help and improve, you know. Like of course it's not the panacea for each and every problem in corruption, but still it helps and it improves the environment, you know. So when I think there is no one better place than you as youth, you know, to do that. So I think without trying to fall into the usual traps, you know, of like cliches that you're the future, and indeed you are, you know. Like I mean, if you do not change it, it will be very little hope for us, you know, even to see that change in the future, like even from the positions and places we talk from. So I'll stop here, I'll not bore you more, but really congratulations from I mean sincerely from my heart. I mean, it's always the greatest pleasure is to come and listen and hear to you, you know. So and I wanted to assure that these are programs which will continue, and I'm very glad that the embassy, the Dutch embassy has come forward to support together with the commission and also delegation. So, and I hope this will become even broader, not only for the week of integrity, but become part of a regular curricula and exercise for you, not only for you, but also for many other students, especially outside Tirana, which I think it's very important and crucial. So thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andy. Now, before we move on to the next debate, the team leaders, Marima and Iris, have a brief window if they want to reflect a little bit on the experience, on the debate, and on the feedback of the judges. So we keep the same flow. Marima goes first, and then Iris. Very briefly, please. Thank you.
I would like to thank all the personalities that made their advices for us. We appreciate them a lot. It was since when we saw at first place the topic, it's true what the ambassador and the minister before said, that you think that it's not debatable, or you cannot find a negative result, but after you research, you find out that there are a lot of problems that should be resolved. But even though in the environment that we are living, especially in the pandemic, using of e-programs that OECD suggests are the best choice possible. We don't have a lot of other choices to do. I want to thank all of them for all their comments. And the opposite team, they had very good points. I enjoyed very much our debate.
Thank you, Marima. Iris? The floor is yours.
Well, as we said, corruption is a big problem also in Albania, but let's hope that in the future the situation changes a little bit. I enjoyed the debate. Thank you very much to Mrs. Ambassador and to all judges and to you all for organizing this debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, congratulations to both teams and to the team leaders. Thank you as well to the mentors for the work they have done. And very grateful to Madam Ambassador, Mr. Mariani and Mr. Dobrushi for their feedback and their comments and their suggestions for our students. We understand that you are busy and you might have to leave, so this is completely understandable. Thank you again, and we hope that we will be able to see you in other events and in other debates that we hope to organize in the future. Now we will move on to the second debate. I'm very happy to see most of the young students that Liburnetic has engaged. I used to be one of the jury members when they were debating in the during the spring. They are really, really very good, and I'm looking forward to listen to what they have to say today. The debate motion is education for integrity must be mainstreamed in school and university curricula. We have the affirmative team led by Biorigini, and the members are Florinda Giupi, Valentin Nina, and Erti Poca. Then on the opposition team, we have Andri Ferrati as a team leader, and his team is composed by Angela Giaca, Clea Meche, and Besart Bebia. So now you know the drill, you know it very well. The floor is yours to start with the debate with the team leaders, and then at the end again for your concluding statements before we move on to the jury comments. So I guess we start with Yuri. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, I am Biorigini, the team leader, and I'm honored to defend the idea for education for integrity must be mainstreamed in school and university curricula. Building a culture of integrity in society necessarily begins with the education of young people. The knowledge, skills, and behaviors they acquire now will shape the country's future and will help them uphold public integrity, which is essential for preventing corruption. Public integrity values promote public good over private gain. To the end, the OECD recommendation on public integrity calls on countries to raise awareness of the benefits of public initiatives, to reduce tolerance of violation of its standards, and to carry out related education initiatives wherever appropriate. Engaging the school system is critical to inspiring norms for public integrity at a young age. A growing trend around the world today involves countries using their school system to communicate to young people the roles and responsibilities of their integrity and the values. Another thing I want to add is the school curriculum engages young people in an ongoing dialogue and exploration about how they, as citizens, can protect public integrity. Education for public integrity is about inspiring ethical behaviors and equipping young people with knowledge and skills to resist corruption. Drawing on countries' experiences, the resource book provides policymakers and educators concrete tools to educate for public integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, Björn. Greetings, everyone. My name is Andri Ferrati, and I'm the team leader of the second team, the opposing team, to the topic. While we might generally, to some extent, agree with the idea or the notion of teaching public integrity values, implementing this is a lot. Is another idea, is another job that we need to make. Given the position that schools and universities have in our societies, they touch different religious groups, they touch different ideology groups, they touch different ethnicities and their respective beliefs. So to achieve some kind of an agreement between all these groups, social groups involved, as of what will be transmitted to teenagers and young adults around the country is a near impossible thing to be done. Even if by some miracle we get the approval, our abilities as a country to implement these curricula in our schools nationwide don't promise yielding good results. The educational system in Albania faces numerous challenges, and regarding some basic needs, for example, school infrastructure, etc. So we don't have the luxury of making our teachers' jobs harder, our students' heads easier and easier by adding a curricula that will not have any effect towards them whatsoever because it will never be implemented properly. What we should be doing is giving more attention to practical curricula, practical subjects that our schools are much more in need of. These curricula will have negative effects regarding our students' state of mind. Today, in the world we are living in, we cannot afford any further overload on these countries' future generations. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's important to understand that mainstreaming education for public integrity into the school curriculum could involve a lot of society elements in this process, which is a step forward into social life. This might need a specific course on public integrity that incorporates public integrity learning outcomes into age-appropriate modules in primary and secondary. But we can also rewrite existing frameworks, and this way, we can develop teaching, learning, and reading materials for each subject to incorporate public integrity learning outcomes. Also, developing materials for educators and students that support the achievements of existing public integrity is a good way of understanding this very important concept, which may lead to a better understanding of the world and its values. This way we can create a society which can be more thankful and understandable about what their existing public integrity offers them as an example. It would be amazing if we could also deliver education for public integrity by the public integrity bodies, which may be helpful in this process. This involves the public integrity bodies providing on-request training to different schools with modules developed around specific learning outcomes. As we are part of the education system, we all know that after-school programs are the best. Delivering education for public integrity through these programs would be an amazing idea. This involves the school and the public integrity bodies and the civil society organization developing activities and lessons in an extracurricular format. This approach could include such things as an integrity camp, for example. But whichever approach is taken, policymakers should identify and make use of synergies in the existing curriculum. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you Erti for your argument, but we all know that many education systems face the dilemma of overloaded curricula and competing in the classroom time. Some groups may advocate more teaching about life skills, IT skills, driver education or others. We know that given the pressure curriculum time, one approach could be to integrate public integrity in lessons into the existing subjects. Some of us are students and pupils, and we know that our interest in the school and in the school programs is not as high as it must be in every time. That's why supporting implementation through stakeholder engagement is necessary. And if education for public integrity is to be so effective. Without their support, no matter how fascinating the content is, the program will not be successful. By piloting a program, policymakers are able to identify what resonates with educators and students and what does not. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire, and hello, everyone. Indeed, integrity is one of the best ways to make a person flourish and strong. With that being said, such beautiful value cannot overload even more the curricula, if this is already overloaded. Each of the options described above requires the development of specific learning outcomes about public integrity. The learning outcomes should identify the body of knowledge and skills students are expected to achieve, as well as the sub-learning outcomes necessary to achieve them and indicators for their achievement. The learning outcomes ensure that the development of critical thinking skills is given priority, as these skills will help students transfer what is learned into behavior for public integrity. As a cross-curricular approach is the preferred method for educating for public integrity, the public integrity learning outcomes should be linked to the existing learning outcomes that are set out
in the relevant national or subnational curriculum documents. Also, care should be taken to avoid redundancy and overlap where possible. So at this point, I would like to add the question. Given that the priority is stimulating critical thinking, which practically helps people act in line with ethical principles, how can we deny to students the opportunity of learning about integrity in school and university curricula?
Hello, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to thank Florinda for her point, because her question actually brings me to another question. As the priority is put to the individual's development of critical thinking, how are we sure we are not violating the unity integrity itself holds? Or shall I firmly argue that we are not teaching integrity, we are merely teaching critical thinking over governance? To go back to your question, there is a difference between learning about integrity and learning to think critically over integrity. The former follows a universal approach, and the latter, let's say, follows a individualistic and particularistic approach. For as if the curriculum follows a universal approach as the former, the integrity cannot escape the cultural bias and the boarding of the prospection within corruption and integrity, which leads to integritism, which, as Hubert argues, is the misuse and misunderstanding of integrity. And let me agree on integritism being non-evitable within a school curriculum. On the contrary, as for a curriculum following a particularistic and individualistic approach, as you argue in your thesis, it may end up in integrity being viewed as simply a moral abstraction, which does not apply in the economical, political, or even social context of life leading, exactly to corruption or other forms of integrity violation to be sensed as solutions, even maybe in the actual life. After all, the expectation of exemplary moral behavior is rather counterproductive, let's be honest on that. And we should not overview the technical difficulties focusing on the individual. Like, that brings actual damage to the class management abilities a teacher can have, nevertheless the training he maintains. Therefore, my actual question to you is if we are really ready to put priority on integrity as knowledge once we face a lack of guarantee of its effectiveness in the curriculum and mainly a lack of empirical proofs that favor integrity. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I completely agree with Angela's question, but I'm not going to answer it. I agree with everyone's concerns about integrity in schools' curricula, because implementing integrity in such a way is difficult for all the above mentioned. But if an action is judged by its purpose, I would like to ask every member of this panel, I mean everyone, both as a student and a citizen, is this not the best way to implement such value in society? And by doing so, we can brighten our future. Who are we to question the brightness of a future, a society future, let alone integrity itself? Thank you.
Valentin, thank you for that wonderful argument. But leaving the idealistic talk aside, we all know that integrity is not a law of science. It's way more flexible than that. We have to talk about the unqualified staff that will take years and years to prepare to teach the students that will come after them. We need to talk about the textbooks. They will take years as well to prepare and also to translate in every language of this world. And by that, we can agree on that not every country relates to each other in the same way. That can depend on economics, politics, beliefs, and a lot more than that. Let's take USA only. 25% of their high school students are dropouts. This tells us that the school is not really their favorite place in the world, and that's a lot of people, 25%. Integrity is a virtue for us to decide on how we learn it and also cultivate it. At the end of the day, it's my integrity and not yours. Thank you.
So, all in all, in conclusion, change begins with the education. Corruption remains a stubborn challenge. Education for public integrity is about inspiring ethical behaviors and equipping young people with knowledge and skills to resist corruption. One of the biggest problems and obstacles our world is facing nowadays. By implementing integrity in our school curriculum, youngsters can define corruption and take appropriate action to fight it. It as well provides a solid approach to education for public integrity and assures comprehensive coverage for all students. Unless norms and values change, anti-corruption laws can only have a limited impact. Experimental evidence has found that social norms regarding acceptable and unacceptable practice can influence how individuals behave when confronted with a corrupted scenario. Public integrity means doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Around the world, societies pass on values and norms related to public integrity through school, community, and family life. But sometimes, when corruption and unethical behavior seems normal, we can lose sight of what public integrity is all about and why it matters. At times like this, governments may choose to educate for public integrity so that the public good is emphasized over private gain, and complex problems are dealt with by institutions in an ethical and principled manner. As a result, public integrity is strengthened. Thank you.
From what we heard, integrity is a characteristic everyone should possess, and I couldn't agree more in that. Integrity is being honest. Integrity is doing what you believe and being proud of what you did. But you see, things are not so great. The devil stays in the details, the Americans say, and they are right. What is the right thing to be done? This is the grand dilemma. Well, you see, obviously, the right thing to be done, in my opinion, is this. You can't see it. But that's because your point of view regarding what's the right thing to be done is different from mine. Your right thing to be done is this. I obviously can't see it, but I assume you do. So now we have two people, two different point of views, two different right things to be done. And that doesn't mean that both are right. That doesn't mean that neither of them are right. But just think about thousands of pupils, thousands of parents, of students, of 3 million people in Albania. Each and every one of them have their own right thing to be done, because it's not an absolute thing. It's just relative. It's not It's not like that. Everyone has his own way of saying what is right to be done. Well, I tell you what is right to be done, and I'm not getting into the difficulties of implementing all this. I'm just telling that we shouldn't be forcing children to believe what we say and take it for granted. We should do the opposite. We should be teaching them their rights to value what is right for themselves. We should be teaching them the right to create opinions and believe them, the right of free speech, the right of individualism, of not doing what society wants them to do, the right of not going with the flow. What's right for you is not for me. Your values are not mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bjori, and thank you, Andri, as team leaders, and thank you to the entire debate members for the lively discussion. Now I would like to give the floor to our jury members for the second debate to provide their feedback. I'm very happy to give the floor to Deputy Ambassador of the Dutch Embassy in Tirana, Mr. Roger Nuven. I'm sorry for the pronunciation. The floor is yours, and thank you for being with us here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my name is quite difficult. I think it's one of the more difficult names in Dutch to pronounce for foreigners. In Dutch, it's Rogier. But Roger is similar, quite similar, and is fine as well. Thank you so much for having me. It's been very interesting. I mean, I won't repeat what previous jury members have said, including my ambassador, about the importance we attach to integrity, especially during this week of integrity we're organizing together with others. I must say that before this meeting, and I learned what age you are, and I thought back of my own age or my own experience at that age, and I can't remember having discussions about integrity at that age, whereas I think it would have been very helpful. So in that sense, you have an advantage over many other people, that you've already thought about this important topic, which is an important topic for the rest of your life, I think. So it's a good skill to have. Then on the debate question and the debate itself, it was not an easy debate question, I think. I mean,
in the week of integrity, obviously the affirmative team is a bit more easy because the slogan or the statement it fits very well with the week of integrity, of course. So it's not easy for the other side to argument. I must say I was quite impressed with the critical thinking argument. Was quite innovative, I would say. And then I also noticed that you are quick learners, because you seem to have picked up some of the lessons and the tips that were given by the previous jury members, including the one about looking into the camera, using it as basically your own auto cue type of setup. So I was quite impressed that several of you were facing the camera and talking to the camera, making eye contact. I think that's very important in these setups. Then some other points I wrote down. I think some of the arguments were a bit overlapping, so maybe in the future it's better to divide the arguments a little bit between each other. I thought some of you gave some very practical advice on how to get institutions involved, for instance. So that's very useful. I think also in the previous session, people mentioned, jury members mentioned that it's good to come with practical examples. It brings the debate to life. People can imagine how it works in practice. And then finally, I think one thing which I also suffer from myself is that we all have the tendency to, when speaking in public, to speed up, to get it over with, to speak as quickly as we can. But that doesn't always bring your message across in the best way. If you look at former President Obama, he would always have this pause in between his sentences. I used to live in Kenya, and he has Kenyan heritage, and I know that this is part of his Kenyan heritage, because many Kenyan speakers also have this natural pause in their argumentation and in their speech, and it really helps to emphasize your argument and to keep people's attention. If you speed up, sometimes people get lost in your words. So that's maybe one final tip. So thank you very much. It was very useful, and hopefully I can participate again next year. Since I arrived only this summer in Tirana, so I'll be here for the next few years. So I hope to experience a number of these sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rohir. I'll try. Thank you also for the tips, very helpful for myself as well, in addition to the students. I would like now to give the floor to our next jury member. She is Mrs. Aspasiana Gongo. She's here in the capacity of Deputy Minister for Education, Sports and Youth. We are very pleased to have Aspasiana with us. I bet most of the debaters know her. She has been engaged in the debate program and in the youth sector for a long time. So she knows the students, but also the program and the achievements and the challenges very well. Aspasiana, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lorena. Thank you very much for the invitation. I was feeling nostalgic, in fact, about the time that we used to organize this activity before 1 year ago, when I remember, and the opponents were face-to-face. But anyway, I want to express my gratitude for all the debaters. I know that it is not easy to do the debate online, but you all did an excellent job. All of you were prepared on the theme that was being discussed, and all of you had valid arguments. You were able to fully address the issues, even because you meet them in your everyday life, and it is really important for us to understand more about your perspective. I also want to point out the clearness of body language that you have, the sense of humor, and of course the research you have made to show you really are invested in this activity. It is very important for you to be part of the discussion, not only to develop your debating skills, but also to understand more on the topic which affects your everyday life and in the future.
Understanding the importance of integrity in our schools and university leads us into better education overall and delivering a more qualitative approach from teachers and professors in our country. In fact, there is a lot of work being done by the Ministry of Education, Sport and Youth to develop this field and empower students and lead them to engagement and to make them understand the power of decision-making process, public speaking and advocacy. That is a way we are also working and have made a great steps to add the Redebate project in all the municipality of our country for selected of high schools. This is a collaboration with Librunetic organization with the support of Open Society Foundation, UNICEF, UNFPA, and of course with the Embassy of Netherlands. Congratulations for all, and I wish, but also I am sure for that each of you will become the critical thinkers in the future of our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aspasiana. Now the floor is for Mrs. Stella Sulotti. She is an advisor to the Minister of Justice. Thank you, Stella, for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Because I'm not sure with the microphone.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everybody, very, very much. I was extremely impressed, and you put me like in a real dilemma, because I thought, yes, it's very clear. Integrity, education, they go together. I sincerely cannot decide now if they go together or not. So thank you for your arguments. It was very impressive. I would suggest that sometimes maybe you can pick on the arguments that the Contra team, for example, gave, to take it for your side, because it doesn't mean that diversity or being different, it's not speaking about integrity. I think respecting each difference is also part of integrity. So there is a lot there that you can still take from each other's arguments and improve your debate. But I was very surprised for your preparation, for your arguments that you used. And I wish you all best of luck. And I sincerely could not say which was the best team. You are both great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stella. Yes, both teams were very good. Now, thank you for the feedback to all of you. I would like to give the floor again to Bjori and to Andri for their reflections regarding the debate experience and also the feedback they received from the jury members. I guess we'll start with Bjori.
Hello again. I want to thank you all for the possibility to came here and express my opinion, not only mine, but my teammates as well, about a topic that is all about us. We are youngsters and we are our country's future, and integrity is a moral thing, that a value that all of us will reflect it in the future. And I think there isn't a better way to express and get knowledge about this thing than other debate about it. And I want to thank you all again for the opportunity to come here and express ourselves and our mind. And that's all. I hope we see you again in the future as well.
Thank you, Bjori. Andri, your turn.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I have to say that I said what I believed and I believe what I said, but you know, everything needs to be improved. We did have a great time. We learned a lot. And yeah, I'm looking forward to any further occasions like this, and I'm going to be pretty happy to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, I was not the leader, but can I say something?
Of course, Valentin, of course.
I would like to thank all the actors who made this gathering possible. Every single one of you, thank you. You changed our monotony. Thank you.
Thank you. You are welcome. We are happy, and of course, this motivates us to continue our work. I would like now to give the floor to
Valentin, not let alone the fact that we are here in a pandemic and in a record time, and all this organization is speechless. Thank you all.
That makes it marvelous. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Highly appreciate that. Thank you. So Ergus, as I was saying, you all know Ergus. Ergus is the executive director of Liburnetic. He is a colleague and a partner of ours. We are very happy to cooperate with Liburnetic, with Ergus, and with the entire team on the debate program. So I would like to give the floor to you now to share a few thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dariana. Thank you all, Your Excellencies, and all of you students. I want to thank you for the opportunity that you gave to us, actually, because it was really amazing hearing all your arguments and bearing in mind that there are other perspectives on seeing integrity and why not education in a different way. I wanted to add only something regarding facilitating our students learning about integrity in school can help empower the next generation to prevent corruption. Indeed, it is through education for public integrity that the behavioral norms and values for society that challenge corruption and support integrity are passed on. I wanted to support all the students through all these programs, through the debates program that we're developing. Actually, Liburnetic is now implementing the 4th edition. And as the Deputy Minister said before, we are present in all the territory of Albania in 61 municipalities with more than 150 students of high schools. I wanted to thank the institutions that made this possible, and especially the Netherlands Embassy that supports this activity and is really near to the young people through implementing this kind of activities and following and giving audience of all of that. I think, and I'm convinced that during these recent years of this experience, in amazing experiences with young people from the high schools, we developed another front. We founded, we identified another front where to work with and even to put some concrete pathways on that direction. What else? I wanted to express my gratitude for supporting this kind of activities, and I'm sure that in the next future, this can be not only a project or different project like that, but bearing in mind that it's extremely important to put that things on the table of the different institutions and to think concretely to make some real curricula and updated one on this kind of activities. Because as all knows here, non-formal education goes really directly on the development of some civil values, let's say, and activism. And what's more important than growing up the activism through young people and going forward to develop different strengths and different perspectives of the development of Albanian society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ergus. Before we conclude, I'd like to ask Aida Lahi from the Dutch Embassy if she wants to say a few words. She used to be a jury member herself, a former debater. She's a promoter of the program. She has supported SCiDEV and Liburnetic to organize this event. And we are very grateful for her support. And maybe out of the usual scenario or the agenda, I'm just giving the floor to Aida if she would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Gloriana. I hope you can hear me. I was not prepared, so I do not have the headsets.
Yes, we can. Go on, thank you.
Yes, indeed, a lot of nostalgia now that I was thinking. It's like one generation before I was doing debate myself and also being a judge. So I think it's more thrilling to be a debater than a judge in that sense. I really enjoyed, and we are happy that it could be part of the Week of Integrity, the engagement of the youth. A lot of success to everybody and hope to see you in the future again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the debate teams, to the jury members, to all the participants. Thank you to the mentors as well, and to our colleagues. This is not one-off event. Hopefully we will continue during December to work with these 16 bright young people to carry out a call to integrity youth campaign online with blog posts and video messages that the students will produce. SCiDEV and Liburnetic will also include integrity as a topic of debate in our debate program that we run throughout the year. And of course, we will continue to work with young people to promote them as champions and as models of integrity in their schools, in their universities, and in their communities. We are also supporting students to put into action ideas and arguments that stem from the debates and the skills that they develop through the debates, and support them in engaging in schools, in universities, in communities, and in developing further their professional life and their active social life as well. In this way, we hope to promote integrity, but also to promote young people as embodiment of such high ethical values in their communities and in their everyday life. Thank you very much to all for your participants, particularly to the students. To be honest, I was a little bit concerned about the online version of this event and all the things coming together in one piece. But at the end, I'm very happy. I enjoyed the debate very much, both of them, and also the feedback from the juries and the reaction from the students. I'm very grateful to the SCiDEV backup and supporting team for making this possible, to the Dutch Embassy for their support, and to Liburnetic for their collaboration, of course. And if I have forgotten anything, please excuse me. I hope to see you all soon. I hope you have a successful month ahead. It is December. It is the time of the holidays. Hopefully, I know it is a challenging time, but I hope that you will be all safe and sound and healthy, and to see you soon in other activities. Thank you again, and all the best from my side. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bleriana. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.